Howdy, Ole Miss fans, and welcome to the Brad and Chad Show on the OM Network. Brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans, made in the USA. This is the show by and for Ole Miss fans, where you'll get expert insight and analysis on Ole Miss athletics. And now, here are your hosts, former Rebels Chad Flowers and retired NFL star Bradley Sowell.
Podcast time.
Howdy, toddy, Ole Miss fans. Good Wednesday to everyone. Bradley, how are you this morning?
What's up, man? What's up? Got a good show. Got a good show planned today. Got a good guest to hear some Auburn preview. Big week coming up in Oxford. Another 11:30 game. Ole Miss fans gotta get up for it, or Lane will be calling you out, obviously. But it's a big week for Ole Miss coming up.
Yeah, you mentioned our guest. I actually want to bring him in right now. You may be familiar with him. It's Cubelic. He's a college football analyst for ESPN. You see him on the SEC network as well. He's also a co-host for McElroy and Cubelic in the morning on WJOX out of Birmingham. Oh, and by the way, he's a graduate of Auburn. Cole, how are you this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Cole, how's it going? I got to admit, Cole, I did some little research. I looked on your Twitter, and your son – in your Twitter picture in the background at right guard, with you being a lineman, we got to get that. We got to get that stance right, Dad. You know what I mean? We got the knees pointed to the side. I'm sure you'll have some fun with that when he gets older.
Trust me, we've worked on the stance. It's something that we've talked a lot about. I don't know if he was pulling on that play and trying to get out a little bit early, but couldn't at that point in time. The 1-year-old, we couldn't even get him in a 3-point stance. So I was just glad that we got him off the ground a little bit. So just kind of a cool picture when we were there at Jordan-Hare Stadium one afternoon.
Awesome.
Well, Cole, I'm going to go ahead and put you on the spot. So there's obviously a lot of uncertainty around Brian Harsin right now at Auburn. Question for you. Do you think that a coach that has Ole Miss ties is going to be the coach at Auburn next year? Now, that could be Hugh Freeze. That could be Lane Kiffin.
I was going to say that could go a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different guys that could possibly end up being. I don't know, because here's the reason that I'll say I don't know is I don't actually know who's in charge of that decision, because Auburn has an interim athletic director right now.
Right.
Auburn's president has only been holding his position for I think about 4 or 5 months now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you have a lot of new, and there will be an athletic director who comes in, and you wonder, okay, is he somebody who's tied to the old guard and he's just going to go the direction they want to go? We saw Alan Green trying to go a totally different direction. That doesn't appear as though it's worked out very well. So I think it depends on what happens with the Auburn leadership here over the next couple months.
Okay. So in your summation so far, how would you break down the Auburn season? It looks like things really just started off poorly, at least on the offensive line. You had your center retire pretty much right before the season began. Your second string center is now injured. Now you're down to the third string. Kind of give me a breakdown on what has happened to cause Auburn to get in the position that they're in right now.
Yeah, so you thought you were in a really good spot with Nick Brahms returning. Was going to be a fifth-year senior. Guy's played a lot of football, played good football, and he just had some knee issues. Tried to have him surgically repaired in the offseason. Didn't really work. So get into fall camp. He can't go the way that he wants to. He shuts it down. Tate Johnson takes over. Tate had not played in an Auburn game and did some good things early on. That he gets banged up in the Missouri game. He's out. So now Brandon Council's had to bump down a little bit, and they've played a couple other different guys at different positions. So I think what that's done is not just make the center position more difficult, but now you're having to pull a guard down, and then that's going to change your second team reps, and you're moving other guys around. And then you want to try to rep other guys at center to say, okay, is this a different option? I've been a part of that. 1998, when I was at Auburn, we went through 6 centers. I was the first one to go down in fall camp about 2 weeks before the first game. And then it was like Mike Pasillo and then Ben Nowlin, and then it was just on and on and on. And you're just kind of pulling from anywhere. So you're not going to get really a continuity with your starting 5. And I think Auburn has struggled to get that. Not that I think it would be great even if he had been healthy and played the whole time, because they're just individuals up front that are struggling with their one-on-ones, be it in the run game or in pass protection. They're not a super talented offensive line. And specifically at tackle, they've had a lot of issues. That's why you're going to see them run multiple tight end sets. They're trying to protect those guys. And that has led to, some of the deficiencies within the offense. They thought they were going to be able to get the stretch play going this year. That hasn't been something that they've been able to unleash. And then I think not being able to do that hasn't really helped some of the play action, the bootlegs, different things of that nature. So it started there, but there's been a lot of blame to go around and a lot of frustration with the Auburn offense this fall.
Yeah, Cole, let's stay on the center position. Ole Miss has had some issues at center this year as well. They've had a lot of snaps on the ground, and I know you played center for Auburn. What causes that? What leads to bad snaps and all that?
It's difficult because back in the day, Brad, we went shotgun in 2 minutes, and that was about it. Maybe if we got to a third and more than 8 or 9, we might be in gun then. But still, they had to be accurate. You had to have good snaps. And the difficult part about it is, you've seen football practices every day. Center quarterback exchange is the first thing you go do every day. In the summer, my quarterbacks and I would go out on the field and we'd get 100, 200 snaps in every single day. That still happens. And it's still like if you go watch a college football game and you're there early enough for warm-ups, you'll notice that kickers and punters come first. No one's really paying attention to what happens there. Nobody cares. And then the next group of guys that comes out, the centers will be with quarterbacks and some of the receivers because they go get that center quarterback exchange and they want to make sure they're there and that you'll work with different guys so you can have a feel what it's going to be like. But I'll say this. There are certain blocks, let's say outside zone.
Yep.
You're a lot of depth, a lot of width. So your body is turning and you're trying to get outside and wide very quickly. So you're gone, but you're also turning your body, but that snap has to stay straight. That's why a lot of times when you see an outside zone, the snap will go high and wide. I guarantee he's going to the left because his body is turning. It's hard to keep that just straight frame of tossing it straight back to the center. Short yardage goal line would be another example of that. Gun or underneath. Well, I'm probably down in a 4-point stance. I'm essentially just bear crawling out of there, trying to can we just essentially, if I get a stalemate on the goal line, we're good. Like just don't give up penetration.
Right.
But I got to get lower to do that, and I'm coming off the ball a little bit harder. Well, that quarterback's hand, he got to ride me underneath. Or if it's in the gun, you think about it. I'm not worried about a good snap. I'm worried about snapping, getting low, and getting out as fast as I can.
Especially on that zone, trying to get that backside leg through too as well. So it makes them, makes them rush it a little bit. That's.
And then you're going like super full speed. So now your intensity comes into play. Like it's a live game. Like we can go practice it all day against our own guys, but you get in a game, it always is going to ramp up.
Well, that center QB exchange is so funny. Like back in the day, it was all they came out. Everything's you're taking 1 million snaps under center. Well, now they come out and it's right to gun. It's like my center QB exchange used to be, hey, I'm under center for 10, 20 snaps. Now everybody's just in gun. You're right, man. I think it's just a tougher snap at times for these guys.
It's weird. We had South Carolina last week, and I asked Spencer Rattler. I said, before you got to South Carolina, had you ever taken a snap under center? He said, nope, not one time. Not high school, not Oklahoma, never. Like he hadn't done it. And so now it's not a big part, but they do it on a regular basis inside that offense under Coach Satterfield. So it can be very complicated if you allow it to be.
Absolutely.
What is on the defensive side of the ball? It feels like something that's Auburn usually has a really good, stout run defense, but it doesn't seem like that's the case this year. I know Penn State ran for a bunch. Georgia ran. Now those are, Georgia's a really good team, but now you've got edge rusher Ikuliota. He's out for the season.
Yep.
How do you feel that the Auburn defense is going to match up with the Ole Miss offense coming into this weekend?
Don't feel great about it. Because, a lot of people would say, well, Auburn's always had great defensive linemen. That's why. Right. But also go back and look at Auburn's linebacker play. And even if it's not guys who are high caliber NFL players like Travis Williams, Ontarius Williams, those were guys that were a little bit undersized, but just they knew where to be, how to fit, and then they were aggressive and they got guys to the ground. Go last year's Kobe McLean. He almost looked like a big corner playing linebacker, but he got guys to the ground. Like he got ball carriers to the ground, and he showed up with a lot of intensity, and he was just a fierce football player. I think location has been a big problem for that group specifically. Some of the interior defensive linemen getting their shoulders turned a little bit too much too often, getting out of their gaps. That's obviously not going to allow you to help your linebackers be able to locate the football because they're not going to see things develop the way that they need to. So you go back to that Penn State game, and it was counter power over and over and over and over and over and over, and they couldn't find it. They couldn't locate it. You go to the Georgia game last week, a lot of people would say, oh, Auburn's not a good team. Georgia's this big, bad team with these 5 stars. They just blew them off the ball. That wasn't really what it was. There's a lot of gap scheme runs, and there was a lot of guys that misfit the runs. Georgia ran split zone with Brock Bowers, where you run zone, the tight end comes back across. Couldn't find it, couldn't locate it. Ran some gap scheme stuff, pin and pull, block down, pull around. They haven't played gap scheme all year, not all season. They have struggled to find and locate gap scheme runs. They struggle with that again against Georgia. So I have a massive concern in this game because I believe, and I've watched a lot of teams, I think Ole Miss has the most unique, coolest run scheme right now in college football with some of the things that they're doing up front with the offensive line, with what they do with the window dressing behind it. I mean,
I agree.
Walking zone and the back has a counter track to it. Like they'll give you split zone and a jet motion with it.
Yeah,
Then they'll put those two against each other.
If you look last week, you had a zone on front side. You had two guys pull with a wrapper around. I mean, it looked like a gap scheme and a zone mix. I mean, it was crazy. And I think we had a big run on it. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it's pretty creative scheme. That they're mainly a zone scheme, but they will show you some different gap looks, and that's really not what they do. But yeah, I would agree there. I mean, last week there was a few runs I was like, man, that you could have read that either way. You know, you show on the jet sweep, you show a counter on one side, and all of a sudden you're out the left side. So I agree with you there. I think Ole Miss presents a pretty cool run style.
Then you add tempo to that, and then you add what can happen through the air. Then you add, and they're not going to live and die on quarterback run, but they can put it in, which adds an extra gap and gives you another defender that has to come play that. It would be a very difficult task for the Auburn defense this weekend.
Do you see any advantages that the Auburn offense may have against the Ole Miss defense on paper?
Not many, to be honest with you, because I do think this Ole Miss defense is a little bit different. I think last year, everybody kind of went crazy, like, oh, it's night and day, it's totally different. It's like, some parts are a little bit different, but this defense seems to actually be different than what it's been the last few years. I mean, you have guys that play downhill, that can attack the football. I mean, obviously a safety like Otis Reese can get down to the box and he can play the run.
Yep.
You have defensive linemen, especially off the edge, that can rush the passer. You've had one the last few years that's been on and off the field. Now you have two that can be on the field at the same time. So, I feel like this group is it's built a little bit different. I mean, I think when you see physically how Austin Keys plays up to the line of scrimmage, it's a different group. And there's nothing about this Auburn offense that I would look at and say, okay, distinctly right there, no matter what happens, they have an advantage against this Ole Miss defense. And with the inexperience that Robbie Ashford is bringing to the table every week, you can't add a whole lot of things. It's like I've tried to explain to the Auburn fans, and it just makes them mad. They don't like to hear it. They say it's bad coaching. But guys, there's no foundation for this offense, and every great offense has a foundation. Like Brad just said it a minute ago, inside outside zone is probably the foundation for what Ole Miss does offensively. Yep. Some people may say tempo, some people may say stretch in the field, whatever. But I think the
total inside zone.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the foundation of what they do. So, and when I say that, what I mean is all the things you can attach to it and you can do around it, but also when everything goes to hell in a handbasket, you can say, all right, we got to go back to inside zone. If we got to get back to what we're good at, let's get that going. Then we'll figure out everything else we can do. Auburn doesn't have that, guys. They don't have a play or two or three plays that they can say, hey, we're in a bad spot. We're in a world of hurt here. Let's just get back to run and counter, or let's just run the stretch play, or let's get our quick game going. They don't have it. Now, the one thing that I think that they can potentially put in and add more of would be direct north-south quarterback runs, because I do think Robbie Ashford's legs are that dangerous.
Yeah, they are.
But they just don't have a ton of that. And so, there's a lot of east and west, like sprint outs, rollouts, sort of delayed outside the pocket stuff. The east and west game for him, I don't think it's great. Even though they hit a couple against LSU, he's fast and he's dynamic as a runner. I think you've got to get him going downhill a little bit faster, or else I think that's the best way he can impact the game, and they don't do a lot of it.
Yeah, I think that the concern with Ole Miss fans, Auburn's usually physical up front. Ole Miss runs that 3 down at times. They do bring a lot of people in the box sometimes, but I think it'll be an interesting matchup if Auburn just lines up and says, hey, I'm going to stop Ole Miss's run, stack the box, kind of like Vandy did last week. And hey, I'm gonna come right at them. I'm gonna make them stack the box, and we're gonna fall forward. So I think that's the biggest, with Ole Miss fans. They're Auburn typically comes in and can physically run the ball on us. So I think that'll be an interesting matchup to watch.
Yeah, and you get John Samuel Shanker, and you have a couple of tight ends that you can add and give you an extra blocker that can widen the surface a little bit. So especially against a 3-down look, that can complicate things. But reality is they're not getting a lot of guys blocked. And like you look at Tank Bigsby, like the Missouri game, he had 19 carries. 17 of those carries he was hit at or before the line of scrimmage. I don't care how good you are. Bo Jackson, Herschel Walker, Darren McFadden, Deuce McAllister, if you're getting hit in the backfield, you're definitely not generating explosive plays, 50, 80, 70 yards. And you're probably not getting a lot of 5 and 8 and 10 yard gains, because when you do grind out yards, it's 1 yard gain or 2 yards. And so that's where I think Auburn has a big issue is he is their game breaker, and they can't create enough space to allow him to go be that kind of player.
Yeah, that's an odd time for Auburn. How does Auburn fix it, Cole? What do you think? Is it coaching, or is it need more players? It's kind of odd to see Auburn at this stage. Auburn growing up, Auburn was pretty dominant in my lifetime. So
I think, Brad, it's a talent deficiency right now more so than anything else. Like I just said, there's this coaching staff could put in a block of plays to be able to live and die by, and then add to that. The trunk of that tree is not present. I have confidence they could add the limbs to where it would go out and be difficult to defend, but they don't have the players to be able to develop that just yet. So I think it's going to be very difficult for Brian Harsin to retain his job, but I also think that the lack of talent is a big reason why it's been very complicated for him and his staff to be good at their jobs.
Cole, I know we got to get you out here. I got one more thing for you. What's your assignment this weekend? Where are you going?
I'm going back to Lexington. I was there last week, coming off that loss to Ole Miss. So we'll now have Mississippi State and Kentucky, which is a really interesting game because if you look at that Kentucky schedule, they've lost 2 in a row.
Yep.
And Mark Stoops' bunch, they do lose games in bunches. They had a three-game skid last year, 2-game losing streaks in 2020. Now they've lost 2 in a row. They get State, who's looking really good. And then they're at Tennessee the next week and then at Missouri. And a lot of people would say, oh, at Missouri, who cares? You lost 4 games in a row and you got to go on the road anywhere.
Yep,
that's a different game. Arkansas is in the same spot right now. They've lost 3 in a row. They're going to BYU, and then they go to Auburn. You say, oh, it's Auburn. You lose 4 in a row and travel in this league, that's a different ball game. So I think there's a lot of big games in the league this weekend. Maybe not even so much for what the individual games are, but what they could turn into the next 2-3 weeks down the road.
Yeah.
Cole, what color BDJs are you wearing this week? Blue Deltas. What color jeans are you wearing?
All right, I'm gonna throw your guy Nick under the bus here because we've been talking for years about him getting me some pants, not jeans, to wear on the sideline, and he keeps telling me that those are coming my way. I have not received those yet because I'm bending down, I'm hitting the knee a lot of different times on the sideline, so I'm not going to wear my denim out there and ruin it. I'm not going to do it. So I need pants that can withstand a little bit more. And he swears they're coming, but I don't have them. So, Nick, I know you're listening.
Yep. That's at Nick Weaver BDJ for all of your concerns and complaints, everyone. So get Cole his pants at Nick Weaver BDJ. So let's get that going.
But I will have a pair of either gray or navy to go out to dinner in Friday night. That's for sure.
Nice.
Perfect. Well, Cole, thank you so much for your time. Remember, you can check out Cole and Greg McElroy on McElroy and Cubelic in the morning on WJOX 945 in Birmingham. And I believe you can listen to them online as well. Is that right, Cole?
Yep. JocksFM.com, the app. You can download the app in your app store, iPhone, Android. Check it out anywhere.
All right. Enjoy Lexington this weekend, Cole.
Yeah, appreciate it, Cole. Thank you, man.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. That's Cole Cubelic on the Nest and Wild hotline. Thank him so much for that. And, Bradley, listening to Cole talk about that, it kind of sounds like he feels like Ole Miss has it in the bag, right?
Ooh, it's either he's playing us down, letting us down easy, or just trying to play it down, or he thinks otherwise. But no, I think he's correct. I mean, he's pretty realistic on that interview. I mean, if you look at Auburn, I mean, you can tell he's not overly proud of where his alma mater is. But I think he is. He's spot on. I mean, Auburn is a little bit talent deficient, which sounds weird thinking about an Auburn team or LSU team, or like Auburn's just not what they were right now. And now, do they have guys? Yeah, they have guys. But like he's saying, you got an inexperienced quarterback. Your O-line is down to their 18th center or whatever he's talking about, and it's just sometimes you got to have players too, no matter what you do as a team. And Ole Miss has seen that plenty of times over the years. Players help, and Auburn is not what they have been in the past. It is certainly not going to be an easy game for Ole Miss, so don't get that twisted, because this Ashford kid, I mean, if they do catch a few plays in the game that start working and they keep leaning on it, kind of like Mississippi State did to us a long time ago when they just kept running the ball with that random number 14 quarterback or whatever, and it worked. Now we got to avoid that. So, I mean, he certainly sounds concerned.
Yeah, for sure. And, he talked about the offensive line. They have had injuries. I think I read a stat around a quarter of every run play that they have goes for no gain or a loss.
Wow.
A quarter of every run play. So, Tank Bigsby, he's a legitimate SEC back. He's averaging less than 60 yards a game. Yeah. So you could what the Auburn identity, at least in my lifetime, has been running the ball. They're not able to do that. So it's going to be really interesting to see if the Rebels can capitalize on that.
It sounds like they have a mix of things. It sounds like they're missing assignments and they can't block, which is a tough combo right there. So I mean this should be a good matchup for our D line to get out there and kind of shut up the whole Auburn can come in and run the ball on you thing. You got to stuff that and force him to throw. Man, this could be really good for us.
Yeah. Now, real quick, Cole did mention his Blue Delta jeans. I should mention the big event that Bradley's going to be at this weekend at the Lyric in Oxford. So you've got Square Jam on Friday, which is kind of the basketball team event on the Square, and then you're going to have an event at the Lyric where Mustache the Band is going to be playing afterwards. Now you're going to have to either find a way to rally or go home a little early because obviously the Rebels are playing Auburn at 11 a.m. the following morning. But we want to make sure to mention once again that the Blue Delta team is putting together a beautiful event at the Lyric on Friday night this week to kind of celebrate. To have the Mustache the Band and all that. And like I said, Bradley's going to be there to celebrate as well.
Yep, going to be a good time. Excited about it.
Yep, so BlueDeltaJeans.com /after party, and you'll be able to get information there to book any tickets if you need to. Let's talk a little bit more about Auburn. We got some Ole Miss news to talk about as well, but I do want to spend just a little bit more time talking about this Auburn team. On the defensive side of the ball, I mentioned that one of their edge rushers is injured, but their defensive line has been pretty poor as well, just like the offensive line. They're only stopping people behind the line of scrimmage 15% of the time. They're not great at getting stops. They've got a decent pass rush, but the way that the Ole Miss likes to run the ball, you would think that there's going to be more success there, and it's just going to be another situation where we're going to try to do what we do best and see if they can stop us. And I would imagine that's going to be part of the game plan this week.
Yeah, I would say at home 11:30 game. Hey, if I'm Kiffin, man, the first 15, probably eight to 9 of the first 15 players are gonna be like, come right at them. Let's test their oil early. Is what we used to say. Yep. Hey, let's check their oil early. Let's see if they really want to be out here today. And let's get after them. Let's try to pound them a little bit, man. And there will be nothing more demoralizing after coming off a loss to Georgia than the Ole Miss to come up and run the ball, 6 of the 7 times and pound it in there first drive. I think that's what they're going to try. But at the end of the day, if you're Auburn, you just saw the Vandy film, right? Yep. So what are you doing? Okay, you're saying the same thing. Hey, we're going to shut this run down. We're going to make them throw. And I'm going to tell you right now, Auburn's going to have faster corners than Vandy.
For sure.
Those Vandy corners will be lucky if they broke 5 in the 40. I mean, they were pretty. I mean, that secondary was pretty slow. I'd imagine Auburn's going to have a little better athletes back there. But they're going to have to shut down the run and probably play some man there. And I think that's where Jackson Dart's growth is really going to show up, right? I mean, he's just looking better and better each week. Minus a throw or two. Last week was as good a game as you can play at Ole Miss. So I think you'll see Mingo have a big week. I think you'll see a big week out of some of the receivers this week as well.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because Lane actually talked in his press conference about, what has to happen when a team tries to put a focus on the run. So let's listen to what Lane says, and we'll come back with some comments.
Know what you do, and they start to go take it away. Otherwise, it'd be easy every week. So, once you start running and putting up 300-yard games and stuff, people start doing different stuff to you, and that opens up different things. And so, to me, they were playing a lot of run stunts and the heavy run game in the front. So you saw when we passed, he had a lot of time to throw. So that's just how it always works. And it's why you always want balance. So when they do take one away, you can do the other.
Yeah, exactly what you're talking about, Bradley. When a team does what Vanderbilt did, which we presume Auburn's going to try to do at least in some capacity this week, you've got to be ready to exploit what they're willing to give you. And that's what Jackson Dart did against Vanderbilt. And I would expect to see the same thing this week against Auburn.
Yeah, this is when you're glad you have good coaches, right? This is when you're glad you have a Lane Kiffin. Like Cole was saying, hey, some of the schemes he's putting in are some of the best in the SEC, and it's true. I mean, I'm looking at plays and I'm trying to read these plays, and I see, okay, almost about to run a power. Oh no, we have a guy wrapping, and we're actually running a zone to the left. Whenever you have the defense guessing and they're having to stand still and read it for a minute, then they're by you. Those are just good coaching, and that's what Lane's here for. That's it. He can look and say, okay, this is what they're trying to stop, but this is what they can't stop while they're trying to stop our strength, So last week was a huge example of that. I mean, heck, the bombs started flying and dudes are catching wide open balls all over the place. And that's where good coaching comes. And a lot of times you don't see that. Some coaches can't adjust. They sit there all game, keep running the ball right into getting stopped and don't know what to do X's and O's wise. Whereas Lane's like, hey, do it. When it comes, stop my run, and I'll just throw the ball over you. And vice versa with Matt Corral last year. Hey, you're going to guys sit back there in too high and you're going to zone everybody. Cool. We'll run QB draws all day until Matt Corral almost leads the SEC in rushing or for quarterbacks or whatever. So he's just a good coach. I mean, he is, very innovative in the sense of I can stop. I can counter you better than you can counter me. So.
Yeah. Like we mentioned a moment ago, I feel overly optimistic, which is kind of a scary feeling playing a team like Auburn traditionally. But yeah, I feel really good. We'll talk about the our predictions a little bit later on the show, but I can't help but feel like we're going to be 7-0 going into Death Valley next week, which it should be another rocking environment, especially with an LSU team that, on paper they look okay, but they're very talented. They're going to be more talented than Auburn.
Yeah, I'm pretty optimistic as well, man. I mean, I've been drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm even more optimistic now that your blinds look like they've had a little maintenance behind them.
I'm coachable, dude. I'm coachable. You tell me what I need to do, and I'm going to do it, right? So you don't have to worry about that.
I mean, that string, you got it up there pretty good. I mean, you did a good job there, man. I mean, either that or our sponsor came in and somebody came over to fix Chad's blinds.
I received zero items, so I'm very disappointed in the fans that we have. Once again, you can send me literally anything, and I will thank you on the show. So let's see what we can get here.
How coachable are you for real though? Like, are you actually coachable or no?
Very much so. I'm a pleaser, Bradley. So you tell me to do something, I'm probably going to do it as long as it doesn't put me in for injury. So yeah, you could put something on the screen that I need to read, and okay, I'm going to badmouth my family. Okay, but you told me to read it, so let's do it. I'm that kind of coachable, Bradley.
I love it. I wish I was that coachable.
I was going to say, were you? How did you? Let's talk literal coaching. How coachable were you at Ole Miss? If you got your ass chewed out, how likely were you to fight back, or what was your demeanor on the playing field?
I think I was really coachable when I actually had coaching. You know what I mean? Like that was the best. That was the best part. So
this guy right here, those bangs. That's good stuff.
I was pretty coachable. I'm a little bit of a loose cannon though, a little bit.
I could see that. Okay. Now we do have some additional Ole Miss news that I think is, worth talking about. Jonathan Mingo was named SEC Co-Offensive Player of the Week. He had a huge game, set a school record for receiving yards at 247, had 9 catches, 2 touchdowns. He shares the honor with State's quarterback Will Rogers, but he now leads the conference in receiving yards at 507, which is pretty cool. That was also the highest receiving total for.
And it's been quiet too. It's been like a quiet 507. I really feel like he hasn't last week. He obviously broke out, but he had those big plays, but. It hasn't been like other than the Tulsa game he had won, it's been a real quiet 507. So hopefully once he gets going, maybe it picks up even more here. That's amazing. I didn't realize the stats were that high.
Yeah. Obviously this past week was the outlier, but seeing what he's capable of and knowing that the passing game is going to be there if we need it, I think that those numbers are going to increase. So that's pretty cool. Some other news, the LSU game has been announced. So we avoid a night game in Death Valley. I couldn't be more excited about that. I've been to Death Valley at night. Baton Rouge is a tough place to play regardless. But when it gets 8 o'clock and those drunk Cajuns start yelling, man, it is a fun place to play.
And that corn dog smell gets so thick you can cut it with a knife down there. So I'm excited. I'm going.
Oh, you're gonna be there.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be there, baby. Ole Miss gonna be 7-0. We're about to go there and take over. And we play well down there too. Ole Miss is always traditionally
really do.
well. And hopefully we have those red jerseys on too. And I'm gonna be there. I'm excited. And I hope they're having flashbacks of the Tennessee game. Hey, 2:30, whatever, early game. Actually, it was 11:30 game last week. Just a good old whooping at home. Right out there in the daylight, and get the Cajuns home. They get drunk at their house.
You mentioned the red jerseys. Those are my favorite. I don't know about you, but I love the red jerseys. Are my favorite jersey that we have. I like a lot of the uniforms, but man, I want us to wear those reds as much as possible.
Yeah, no, I like the red jersey a lot. It looks good. It really does. It looks good. It looks good on TV. I like all our uniforms right now. I mean, Ole Miss's brand in general is it's up there. I mean, it's very noticeable. I have a guy coming in this weekend from Chicago. I mean, he's been watching. He wants to see Ole Miss. I mean, when is a guy who's never came to an SC game ever? He's like, man, I always see Ole Miss on TV. I've been wanting to come. Hey, I want to come. So, I mean, the brand, the outreach is there. I mean, it's getting to where it needs to go. So,
you taking them to the Lyric on Friday night?
Yeah, I am. I'm taking them to the Lyric. We're gonna go into Pose. If you're in the Grove and you stop by Pose, the smoke machine will be popping. Mark Cleary and some of the boys will be they will be at it hard. So yeah.
What's the deal with the smoke machine? Just to create a scene, or does it actually perform some sort of function?
Well, we have music going. Smoke machine. We're not your traditional. Listen, we're not your traditional tailgate. We're not the suit and tie, wearing the dress with the perfect food. We're like the chicken strips and a little bit of crazy. We're the chicken strips and some dip and a little bit of party scene kind of going in our tailgate.
You're the nuisances of the Grove. Basically.
Yeah, we are the group that if we're beside the wrong tent, they're like, "Excuse me, sir, can you guys hold down a little bit?" We do not want to get beside the Ole Miss fan. If you stand up at the game, Ole Miss fan, they get mad.
Sure.
We do not prefer to be next to them. So, our tent, we've had to put up some little barriers around it just to keep the haters in check. So,
have you ever embarrassed your wife by your actions at the Po tent?
No, not myself. No, I'm not super rowdy. Now during the game when I stand up and hit some woos and shit, like that can she gets really embarrassed because she's like, "You aren't even playing. Like, why are you so fired up? Why are you double arm flexing right now? And you didn't even make a play. You didn't do anything. I don't know. I don't know why. It just I turn into Rick Flair at times."
Okay, nature boy. All right, so that's cool. All right, now on some less good news. It did find out that Michael Trigg is going to be out for the season. Broken collarbone. He suffered that against Vanderbilt last week. On paper, I keep saying this, but on paper, you're going to say, okay, not a huge deal statistically, but he's the kind of guy you game plan for, right? So that takes at minimum a defender that has to pay attention to Trigg. And how do you see that affecting some game planning for the Ole Miss offense?
Honestly, man, it sucks to lose Trigg. He's a good talent. I still think he's a year or two away of reaching his actual ceiling. But if you look at last year, man, Ole Miss didn't use a tight end often.
Right.
And we are a heavy run team, but a lot of our stuff can be ran through, with, Kelly doing whack blocks and stuff like that. It sucks. It definitely sucks to lose him, but I'll be interested to see how Lane kind of schemes that if he goes, more wide receivers in there, or how he does it. It certainly sucks, but it's not going to kill us. I mean, it's not one of those things where if you lost, Dart and Judkins, you're going, oh man, like it definitely sucks to lose Trigg. He's a big body in there. But I think Lane's smart enough to kind of, get around this.
Yeah, so we'll see. His final numbers for the season, he may be able to make it back for a bowl game depending on how the injury heals. 156 yards, 17 catches, 3 touchdowns. But the last 4 games, kind of like you've mentioned, he's only registered 8 catches, 95 yards, no touchdowns. So he hasn't been as big of an emphasis on the offense the last few games. But, that is a talent that you don't want to see missing the season due to injury or anything like that. So, okay, a few other things that we have. I do want to mention our most recent sponsor. That would be Baird Financial. So our friend Jeff Griffin, he's with the Stevenson Griffin Group at Baird Private Wealth Management. You can go to the group's website at stevensongriffingroup.bairdwealth.com, or you can give them a call at 662-841-1900. So that is Jeff Griffin with the Stevenson Griffin Group at Baird Financial. So we're very thankful for them as our sponsor. A few of the things that I have, Bradley, just some other interesting things that I've been kind of finding as I've been reading about Ole Miss in the news. We're at the halfway point of the season, so we're 6 games in, 6 games left. I like to look at bowl projections at different milestones of the season. So we talked.
You say Liberty Bowl. If we get into this and you say Liberty Bowl one time.
It's actually the Bahamas Bowl. All 4 games of the Bahamas Bowl we're going to be playing in Michigan. So that sounds to be pretty good. It's sponsored by Popeyes, or at least it used to be. So that's the positive on that. But no, for real. So when we, like Bradley mentioned, a few weeks ago, we talked about bowl projections, and some people were saying Liberty Bowl. I think there might have been an Independence Bowl in there too. Yeah, just bowls that you're like, man, I really feel like we're a better team than this. But you'll be very happy to know that the projections are starting to look a little bit better. So Sports Illustrated has us playing Illinois in the Citrus Bowl. So if you're not familiar with the Citrus Bowl, that used to be the Capital One Bowl. They play it either on New Year's Day or the day after, depending on where the NFL schedule falls. But that's in Orlando. So that's a major bowl. That's not one of the playoff bowls. You've got USA Today has us still in the Sugar Bowl against Oklahoma State, who we always play in bowl games. Or we might as well just schedule a game with them every season. CBS and ESPN also have us in the Citrus Bowl against Purdue and Minnesota, respectively. So they've got us playing Big Ten teams. I like all of these matchups that I'm seeing here. I'd be pretty happy. I wouldn't be satisfied with the Citrus Bowl at this point. The way things are looking, I may not even be satisfied with the Sugar Bowl, but you got to think that people are finally seeing that, okay, compared to what else is in the SEC, because it doesn't seem as top heavy as it has in the past with some of the major teams. The Rebels had the opportunity to make some noise with where they're going to be playing in the postseason. So Sugar Bowl could be one of the a chance to be the lesser bowl that they play in, but there's a lot that has to happen before them.
Yeah, no, I think, listen, if you're Ole Miss right now and you're looking at your schedule, you obviously got Auburn this week. The next 3 weeks, if Ole Miss shows up and plays the style of football that they're capable of, they should win all 3 of those games, right?
Yep,
9-0. It all comes down to Alabama at home, State at home, Arkansas. I don't know how healthy they're going to be, whatever. It's always tough playing up there. But if Ole Miss locks in, they have a chance to contend this year. Mm-hmm. It really comes down to Alabama, Ole Miss. Alabama, Ole Miss, and State in the West are probably the 3 top contenders.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And Ole Miss got 2 of them at home. Okay, so if you're Ole Miss, of course, Citrus Bowl, that's all great. Whatever. Back in the day, we'd be super excited. I'm a little disappointed if we end up in the Citrus Bowl.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that.
At this point, I'm a little disappointed. Seeing what we have, seeing where the SEC is right now, I'm disappointed if we end up in the Citrus Bowl. Now, Sugar, Alabama gets you, and you say, hey, it is what it is. It's Alabama.
Has the Sugar Bowl lost its luster to you at all because we've played in it a few times now? Because for the longest time it was, I don't care about the national championship. I want to go to New Orleans and play in the Sugar Bowl. But now we've played in there, twice, Oklahoma State, Baylor last year. Does it feel like, okay, I want something more now? Because I'm kind of that way. I'm like, okay, let's play in a bigger bowl now.
I can live with the Sugar Bowl if Ole Miss doesn't drop a goofy one like they have, and it comes down to, hey, Alabama clipped you.
Yeah,
or you dropped one that you shouldn't have.
Okay, I can live with that.
Or you dropped State. I mean, I can live with it. I'm happy with it. But with where this team is now, I mean, they should be thinking foot on the gas, right?
Absolutely.
I'm like, hey, it's right there in front of us. I'm better than the next 3 teams I play, which gets us to 9-0, and I have Alabama at home, which is they have not been Alabama this year that they've been in the past. They are very gettable. We go in and play our ball there. I'm telling you right now, we could get Alabama. And I'm telling you right now, Tennessee may get them this week.
They may.
So they're gettable. But, in my mind, Ole Miss is shooting for something bigger right now. And I think Lane would say the same thing. If you put him on the podium, we're shooting for something bigger at this point. Hey, we want some respect. We want to be in the college football playoffs, right? That's why you do this crap. That's why you do this. You don't do it for the Citrus Bowl. Yeah, that's exciting, whatever. It'll do if you're excited and your team's better than you thought. We do this shit to win a national championship, right? So that's where their eyes should be, and that's where they should be. That's where their goal should be. And I think that's where Lane is as well.
Isn't it crazy to think that the program is at a place right now where we can have a legitimate conversation in the middle of the season? Not the beginning of the season where everybody's like, hey, I want to play in the national championship. But no, there's a path.
And not get laughed at.
And exactly, there is a path. Do a lot of things have to happen right? Absolutely, but that's for any team. Yeah, we've got some tough games on the road. LSU, A&M. We still have to get past Auburn this way. But the fact that we can even be in the discussion tells you how far this program has come just from a few years ago with Matt Luke.
No question.
We are good. Hashtag we are good.
I think right now, as crazy as this sounds, this is the best chance Ole Miss has had to make the playoffs ever.
Ever. I agree with that.
Look at what's in front of you. And we're very fortunate this year. We hit well in the portal, but if you look what's in front of you, Ole Miss they're honestly better. They should be favored in 4 of the 6 games, and it won't be far off in Alabama State since we're at home. Probably be favored in 5 of the 6. So you're telling me Ole Miss is probably, when's the last time Ole Miss has been 6-0 and likely favored in most of the rest of their games, except Alabama maybe? This is their best chance. This is our chance to take it, and we have the talent to do it. Jackson Dart's emerging, just like we want them to. Defense is good enough. It's not world beaters, but they're good enough. They're not like they've been.
They are good
and the
enough.
offense has enough talent, in the wide receiver room, in the quarterback room, in the running back room to win, to go compete for the national championship. And it's crazy to say. My Kool-Aid, it's overflowing right now. Shit's running down my chest right now. I know it. If you're listening, you're like, man, this dude's got the red and blue glasses on. This dude is drunk on Kool-Aid. But if you look at the Ole Miss schedule, you look at what we've done, you look at the straight up just talent. We should freaking at worst be 11-1, 10-2, 10-2 if we drop a crazy one. But Ole Miss has a chance to compete this year and make the playoff.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot refute anything there. And like I said, that is a crazy place considering how long you and I have been Ole Miss fans and what we've seen. For the longest time, I was content with 8 wins. Hey, get me 8 wins, get me to a bowl. And I'm happy because we're not going to compete with your Alabamas and your LSUs and now Georgias. I was at that place. Find me a coach that can get me to a bowl game every year, and I'm happy. It's crazy how fast that mindset has shifted. It's gone. I want
it's almost like where LSU, Auburn, them have been. Citrus Bowl is not good enough.
No, it's not.
In the past, Ole Miss have been great years. That is not good enough. And that's how it's been at LSU. It's how it's been at all these other schools. Ole Miss needs to get to that place, and we're at that place right now. And at some point, we need to bust through. And once we bust through, man, with Kiffin coaching, I'm telling you, programs can change. When Nick Saban got there, Alabama lost to UL Monroe. First year programs can change with the right leadership, and how crazy would it be if Ole Miss took that turn, finally got there, because we got everything to do it right. We got everything to do it. What is Ole Miss missing? Nothing. They can pay a coach top 10 money. They got great facilities. They got everything. It's been a sleeping beast forever. I've been saying this forever. Ole Miss has been a sleeping beast. All it's taken is the right AD to come in and start spending a little money. It takes the right leadership and coaching, the right excitement. When you come to the campus, you love it. There's nothing Ole Miss doesn't have nationally that others have. And dude, it's Ole Miss is a sleeping beast. So woo, let's go, baby.
You know what? Everybody else can be a sleeping beast if you have a Nest and Wild mattress. How about that for a tie-in? So with Nest and Wild, remember, right there in Tupelo, Mississippi, they've got tons of years of experience in the sleep industry. They're backed by a 99-night guarantee. If you don't like it, you can send it back. You can find them on Amazon, nestandwild.com. Nest and Wild Mattresses, another great sponsor here for the Brad and Chad Show. I'm going to keep trying to find ways that I can cheesily tie these things into our conversation. So enjoy it, fans. If you hate it, I'm going to keep doing it anyway. So, perfect. Okay, so Bradley,
get to them picks, baby. Let's get
to those picks. I still have a 1-game advantage on you. Nobody cares. But here we go with the picks.
And if you're listening and you're taking our picks, you're probably broke right now. But
that's okay. That's okay. Remember, all complaints at Nick Weaver, BDJ, for any complaints about our picks or anything else on the show. All right, so let's get started. Cole Cubelic is going to be in Lexington. Mississippi State is getting 6 points at Kroger Field in Lexington. Who do you like this week?
Give me Kentucky. I've been picking against State every time, and it's been bad, but give me Kentucky, man. They're at home. They need to bet if Levis plays. I just feel like this is one of those games. This is one of those Mike Leach specials where you're like, man, Mississippi State's really good. They're going to compete this year. Ass beat by Kentucky. And it's like, oh, okay, they're still Mississippi State. So give me Kentucky.
I think they're looking ahead to Alabama as well. They play Alabama next week. Give me Kentucky as well. Georgia, they are playing Vanderbilt in Athens. They're laying 38.5 points to the doors. I am going to be stupid and take Vanderbilt because I don't know why, but I'm going to take Vanderbilt and be contrarian here. I think Vanderbilt's going to hang tough and lose by 38 against Georgia.
Hang tough. Oh, man. I love it. I love it. Well, Georgia 58, Vandy 3.
Okay, so you're taking Georgia. Yeah.
Georgia.
All right. Arkansas, they're going to Utah to play BYU. We're going to come back to the big game in a second. Arkansas, 1.5 point favorite on the road in Provo against BYU. Who do you like here?
Give me BYU.
Give me Arkansas. I think Arkansas is going to swing things around. So this is going to be a good win that they need. Arkansas is hurting right now. Florida, 2.5 favorite in the swamp against LSU. LSU coming off a loss against Tennessee. Who do you like here?
I like LSU. I think they're a little better than Florida. I really do. They just they faced a good Tennessee team that they got after them. I like LSU to go on there and do it.
I like LSU as well. I think that they're more talented than Florida. That Florida offense is stuck in the mud. I think it will continue to be stuck in the mud. All right, we got big game here. Knoxville, Alabama. 7.5 point favorite on the road at Tennessee. Tennessee just destroyed LSU. Alabama coming off a close win against A&M in Tuscaloosa. Who do you like in this big matchup?
This one makes me feel like last year when Ole Miss and Bama were playing. Everybody was like, man, Ole Miss got him. Ole Miss got a chance. Not so fast, man. Nick Saban shows up, destroys Tennessee. This is set up for a classic humbling for Tennessee. Alabama destroys them.
I'm on the same page with you. I'm in agreement. I think Bryce Young is going to be back. Tennessee can be gotten in their pass defense. Alabama's going to cover this number. It looks big on paper, but it's a trap. I think Alabama is going to cover, so I agree with you. All right, last one. Ole Miss, 14.5. So 14 and a hook at home against Auburn. Who do you like here?
Man, something in my mind tells me we're going to blast Auburn this weekend, but then I go back and look at the traditionally the record between Ole Miss and Auburn. It's just, man, Auburn has owned Ole Miss over the years. I mean, I think the record's like something crazy, and Ole Miss won like the first 3. So I think Ole Miss only won like 6 or something. I mean, a few games over the last 30 or 40 years. I'm going to say Ole Miss wins, but it's going to be a 2-touchdown. The hook's going to get us this week. I think Ole Miss 35. Ole Miss 35. I want to give Auburn 21 points, but not 21 points, probably somewhere in there. 35-21, maybe 28-14, somewhere. It's going to be that type of game.
All right. This will be Brian Harson's last game on the Plains. Ole Miss is going to win by 3 scores. They're going to cover. Auburn is going to fire Brian Harsin on Sunday. Mark my words on that. So I think Auburn is going to lose. I'm going to say 38-14 is going to be the final here. I think Ole Miss is going to play their most complete game.
And this could be almost like the LSU game last year. LSU comes in terrible, Ole Miss gets down, and all of a sudden we beat them 45, whatever, by 1 million. It could be like that. It's going to be somewhere like that. Just like I was saying, Kentucky game would be like Arkansas that one year. I think this is going to be like the LSU game. I think it's going to appear kind of close, and then Ole Miss takes off. I just think traditionally I like Auburn to cover there.
Okay. And so for the season, I've got a 1-game advantage. I'm 9-10 to your 8-11. So we're going to try to put some money in your pocket if you're foolish enough to bet on these games. We will talk to you on Sunday to get a recap of those picks, as well as talking about the aftermath of the Auburn game. Everyone, thank you so much for listening to the Brad and Chad Show. Remember, like and subscribe everywhere you get your podcast, YouTube, Apple. We'll be posting stuff on social media. We've started putting out little clips on TikTok, as well as Instagram. You'll be able to find a little broken down clips of all of our show there. Bradley, have a good week, my friend. Enjoy the Lyric on Friday night. Enjoy the Grove on Saturday.
I will be babysitting Nick Weaver. It's going to be fun. Anybody that's ever babysat Nick Weaver before, it's always fun. I may actually be carrying him. I may actually be carrying him.
Buy Bradley a drink because I've done that. It's awful. Buy Bradley a drink if you see him. All right, buddy.
See you, Chad. Hotty toddy, buddy.
Thanks for listening to the Brad and Chad Show. Follow the boys on social media for more content. And don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. This has been an OM Network production. Brought to you by Blue Delta Jeans, made in the USA.